Hello everybody, Ben Rogers here, the Raptors Digest, reacting to the Toronto Raptors 110-107 loss to the Detroit Pistons. Now, you saw in the title, this is going to be more of a playoff first round reaction, more so than a game reaction, because this game right here, the Detroit Pistons, they're out here balling and all that sort of stuff. I'm not really worried. Some people are worried about playing the Pistons in the first round. I'm not. The Pistons are a solid team. Blake Griffin, Andre Drummond are great players. Dwayne Casey's a great regular season head coach, but I think when we have all of our players together, we have our game plan and our heads straight on. I'm not worried about the Pistons whatsoever. And we can talk about this more in the podcast, like who we'd like to see in the first round. But some people are saying that the Toronto Raptors are cursed and we'd lose to the Pistons in the first round. I don't think that's the case. We're just so talented. We didn't have Ibaka or Lowry tonight. We're just getting everyone in the groove, and we have some issues that I think will be fixed by the time the playoffs happen. So, yeah, this is going to be a bit of a playoff preview and game reaction, but, we'll start just by this game because we'll start with the positives. Kawhi Leonard was great, 33 points, 11 of 21 from the field, an absolute beast. We don't really have to get into Kawhi Leonard. 10 rebounds for him. He's a monster. Kawhi Leonard's a top 5 NBA player. When he's on the court, when he's ready to go, he's there. And the playoffs, he's going to be even that much better. And the bench, they struggled against the Pistons bench, but a lot of the guys played pretty well on offense, especially when they were integrated with the starters. Like Norman Powell was pretty good. He had 10 points tonight, 1 of 4 from the 3-point line, but had some nice drives. He wasn't too bad. OG had some spurts where he was there. He had a really nice spin move at the beginning of this game where he missed it, but it was a really nice move. It's nice to see OG confident with the handle. Patrick McCaw, he really didn't do anything tonight. Eric Moreland, he banged a 3. If you guys listen to the reaction video, he's a guy that's never really shot outside the key. He's more of a hustle and energy guy. Compared him to Bismack Biyombo. And tonight it was kind of the opposite. The only points he got was from behind the 3-point line, and he got absolutely destroyed in the paint. Zaza Pachulia and Thon Maker really ate our bench bigs, and Eric Moreland was in large part to do that. I was pretty surprised because he's coming in to supposedly being a defensive presence. Maybe Boucher would have been better if Eric Moreland's not going to be hitting there, but he's hitting threes, so whatever. But the biggest positive tonight is that Fred VanVleet's back. Fred VanVleet is back in the roster, and he looked amazing. Fred VanVleet, I'm going to keep it real. Like, Fred VanVleet, from what I've seen of Jeremy Lin, obviously he was supposed to be better, and he's had some good years. His past few seasons have been good when he's healthy. But Fred VanVleet is a much better player than Jeremy Lin from the sample size we've seen of Jeremy Lin in Toronto. Fred VanVleet controls the game. He's an actual true point guard. It seems like he has control. He can facilitate better. Jeremy Lin was branded as coming as a guy that could facilitate for other players. Fred VanVleet does that on a much better clip, and he can knock down threes. He's a threat from the 3-point line. Obviously, Lin hit one tonight, but he's not very confident in his stroke. Fred VanVleet hit 4 or 5 from the 3-point line, 4 assists for him, 17 points for Fred. And, compared to Jeremy Lin, who got the start tonight, obviously because Fred has a thumb injury and Kyle Lowry's out, Jeremy Lin had 3 points in 17 minutes, 1 of 4 from the field. And it was just pretty unfortunate watching him out there play. His defense was lackluster. He wasn't making the right takes, and he just isn't really fitting in with the roster right now. And we'll get into how all that will work out, especially playoff time. But I think Fred VanVleet's just ability to knock down, spot up, shoot, along with his creating ability, is going to be very beneficial. I think Jeremy Lin might benefit from playing alongside Fred VanVleet off the bench. But the way it's looking, we might not see Jeremy Lin might fall out of the rotation when Kyle Lowry comes back if he continues to struggle. If he can't get integrated on time. We're only a few weeks away from the playoffs. So, this game, Pascal Siakam, I would have liked to see him take over a little bit more. Obviously, he was slowed down due to foul trouble, a little bit less aggressive than he would have liked to be, but 12 points for him. Marc Gasol had a very solid first half, 9 points, 11 rebounds, 8 assists, all-around game, but really in the second half, well, that was his whole game stats. But in the second half, most of that damage came in the first. Would have liked to see Marc Gasol step it up at the end. Marc Gasol is a legitimate scoring big, and he's a guy that really needs to step up. And we'll swing into the segments early because I want to talk about some more playoff action at the end of this one. But first of all, the Kawhi you do him like that play of the day. It's going to the Toronto Raptors fans. Obviously, if you lose to Detroit, it's going to be tough to give it to an actual Raptor. But the Raptors fans, especially in the first half, were just absolutely outshining the Detroit Pistons fans on the broadcast. Listening to it, it was awesome to hear. Every time the Raptors would score, there'd be a big roar of fans. They had the fake audio going in the background. The Pistons whatever audio team. I guess they have to because they can't look that bad. So shout out to all the Raptors fans there. Why do you do Detroit like that? I guess they've gotten the best of us these games, but we got the true fan support. So we really out here, and I guess we can quiet Dwayne Casey for a little bit for hating on the Toronto Raptors fan base or whatever he said. Check out our last video I made about a week ago on Dwayne Casey when he kind of low-key roasted Raptors fans. That was stupid. But not all plays can be the why you do them like that play of the day, and some just make you say, oh, geez. And tonight, the oh, geez play of the day, Andre Drummond absolutely postered the heck out of Eric Moreland. It was pretty unfortunate. He got the M1 with it too. Made me say, oh, geez, watching that play. And finally, the infamous, the one and only Damari Carroll Gold Star Award. And tonight, it's going to the Raptors, not being able to close this game. Jeremy Lin just really, really struggling. He's getting a gold star. Patrick McCaw would have liked to seen him at least take a shot. He's out there for the defense, but he needs to be a bit more better at scoring if he's going to get all these minutes. And we just need people to step up. So Pascal Siakam, I think, could have stepped up more. I've kind of reiterated all this, but that's enough about this game because this game really doesn't matter. I know some people are going to overreact to it, and maybe some, people will call me on the comment section for not getting a bit worried, but the Toronto Raptors have their eyes set on the playoffs. We see top teams throughout the league dropping games left, right, and center to teams that they should be beating. Obviously, the Pistons aren't a horrible team, but Raptors are down, Ibaka, Lowry, all these guys, and we're focused on the playoffs. So I'm not going to overreact, but certainly a topic of discussion because now the Detroit Pistons have swept the Toronto Raptors in the regular season. Could it be that the Toronto Raptors are cursed to the Pistons? Does Dwayne Casey literally have Nick Nurse's playbook drawn up? Does he know everything all about our players inside out that will be unbeatable force in the playoffs? Personally, I don't think so. Some people might think that that's the case and we should try and avoid the Pistons at all costs. I'm not worried about the Detroit Pistons. Their talent, they have some good guys up front. Wayne Ellington was a great pickup for them. Reggie Jackson when he's healthy, he's a pretty good point guard in this league. But the Toronto Raptors' depth, star power, everything outmatches the Detroit Pistons. And we'll see if Nick Nurse is capable of coaching in the playoffs. But from everything that he said, and the jury is still out, we have not... Nick Nurse has done a solid job in the regular season. Objectively, he has not been as good as Dwayne Casey in the regular season. That's fair to say. I think Dwayne Casey right now would probably have this roster with more wins, but that's because Dwayne Casey does the same thing every night in, night out. People get accustomed, the chemistry's there, and every season we'd be talking about chemistry, how chemistry is going to carry us over the Cavs, how chemistry is going to carry us over, the Celtics, whoever we're playing against. That was always the big word people used to throw out there. And we run the same starting lineup, the same rotation every game. Last season it was always the starters go in, then we'd incrementally take them out, then the whole bench mob would run on their own, then we have Kyle Lowry come in. Like every game last season, you just knew when people were going to get subbed in and subbed out. There wasn't any, fluctuation. You just knew what the rotations were going to be, and that's how it was every game until the playoffs hit. Till the playoffs, teams adjusted to what we did on a night-to-night basis, and we're running lineups that have never played with each other at all before in the regular season, or like maybe 2 to 3 minutes. And we bring it up on a lot on the podcast. Matt Devlin and Jack Armstrong will always mention, this lineup of DeMar DeRozan, Kyle Lowry, Norman Powell, Patrick Patterson, whoever was on the team, and Jonas Valanciunas has only played 4 minutes together this season. That was always a direct quote that seemed to happen every playoff series, and it was confusing because usually those were our best lineups. But hopefully Nick Nurse now has a good sample size of what lineups work, which lineups don't, and maybe the chemistry isn't there like Dwayne Casey had with the guys. That's a fair statement. Dwayne Casey's a phenomenal coach, especially for the regular season, but Nick Nurse was brought in to get us playoff wins, and if he can make proper adjustments in the playoffs, that's where his value will be. That's where Nick Nurse is going to be judged. Obviously, he hasn't been bad in the regular season by any means, but he hasn't been Dwayne Casey. But the real reason we got him is because of the playoffs. Dwayne Casey was the coach of the year, the bloody coach of the year. So it's a tough standard to live up to in terms of regular season wins. But we'll see how that goes in the coaching matchup, because I know a lot of people are talking about, is Casey better than Nurse? I think it's just unfair to say right now. It's not a proper time to make that judgment. And if we want to go into the player matchups, Marc Gasol can match up against Andre Drummond. Marc Gasol really has to step up, in my opinion. I was extremely happy when we made this move. This move made sense. Marc Gasol was averaging 18 points per game coming into the season. It wasn't like he completely, was over the hill when we traded for him. It's not as if he's been a bust, a shell of himself. He was still putting up huge numbers, 18 and 10. Then we make the move, and ever since he's come over, he's just been pretty underwhelming. His ability to pass, you can tell this guy was an all-star, but usually he gets buckets. His biggest issue with the Toronto Raptors right now has been getting buckets, and we need more of that from him, especially in games like this when we could really need some down low against Drummond and Griffin, get them tired, right? Because you want to go at the other team's best players. And if we could get the scoring along with Marc Gasol's passing ability and everything else he does, this team is going to be so nasty. And these are a couple of huge games for Gasol because he's getting the starting position without Ibaka there, and he really needs to prove himself. If he wants that starting job, I was of the mindset that he should be the starting center, but from more I've seen, Ibaka has looked a bit better at the center position. So it's going to be interesting to see going forward what happens at that position. But one of the more interesting topics I think we could talk about now, before we end off this pod, is who's going to be on our bench. Who's going to come off the bench, get the bench minutes, because our bench has struggled tonight. The bench was minus whatever. Eric Moreland was minus 16, OG was minus 5, Norm was a minus 11. The starters had a plus minus rating, but the bench had a lower plus minus rating besides Siakam, and that makes sense. You want, especially come playoff time, you want your starters to be better than your bench. We had the best bench in the NBA last year. It really didn't help us in the playoffs, and that makes sense. Role players don't usually step up. It's the stars that step up, and we have Kawhi and all that. So it's going to be interesting to see who gets minutes. I think this could be its own video as we inch closer to the playoffs, but definitely keep a watch out between guys. Fred VanVleet's going to be in the rotation. That's a no-brainer. But Norman Powell, OG Anunoby, and now Jeremy Lin has kind of played himself in that fringe and rotation, and Patrick McCaw. I think those four players, obviously we'll name the locks for the rotation right now. Kawhi Leonard, Kyle Lowry, Pascal Siakam, Marc Gasol, Danny Green, Serge Ibaka, and Fred VanVleet. That's 7 players right there. The Toronto Raptors are not going to be going 10 deep per game in the playoffs, unless obviously we're blowing a team out. So those are 7 guys that are locked in. Are we going to go more than 9? Are we going to go more than 8? Right? Because that leaves Norman Powell, OG, and Jeremy Lin fighting for playoff minutes. It's probably going to be dependent on matchups as well, but Norman Powell, he's had his ups and downs. I think Norm's has the highest highs but the lowest lows this season. OG's a bit bigger than all those guys, and he's looked pretty solid in the past 2 games, but he doesn't really take over a game like you'd like, and he turns over the ball a little bit more than you'd appreciate if you're looking for a slasher big man. So OG, he's a bit unpredictable, but he played very, very well in the playoffs last season. And Jeremy Lin, right? Jeremy Lin's the most established out of those 3 players. And if you asked me 2 weeks ago, I would have said Jeremy Lin's a lock for the rotation in the playoffs as well. But the way he's just struggled, his inability to hit shots, his inability to drive, I think Nick Nurse isn't putting him in the best situations either. So I don't think it's all on Jeremy Lin, but using him as more of a spot-up shooter. And the same thing, we saw the same issues with DeLon Wright. That's why he's thriving now in Memphis. But if he's going to play off the ball, he says he plays off the ball mostly. He has to be able to play within the Toronto Raptors system, and he has to be able to find success if he wants minutes. So, let me know who you guys think, and we're going to certainly make a video about this. Who will get the playoff minutes between Norman Powell, OG Anunoby, Jeremy Lin? Who do you want to see? Let us know in the comment section below. We love reading them. I apologize if this was a more somber podcast. My voice, I'm a little bit sick on top of this horrible game. So it's unfortunate, but what can you do? The Toronto Raptors I think they'll be fine. I don't think anyone should be overreacting just yet. Hopefully Nick Nurse locks down the rotation now in the coming games. I think everything will be good in Raptorland. I don't think we should be worried about the Pistons, and the Nick Nurse, Dwayne Casey debate will be reserved for the playoffs. So honestly, I think it'll be fun to play the Pistons in the playoffs. Let me know who you guys think we should play against. Should it be the Brooklyn Nets or the Miami Heat? What team do you want to see in the first round of the playoffs? We'll have a lot of content coming for you guys, during playoff time. So definitely subscribe to the channel. Check out Courtside Connect. We have a lot of videos coming there. There's another one dropping tonight. Jakob Poeltl and the Spurs have been playing really well, so I made a video there. We really appreciate all you guys. We love your support. I'm signing off. Cheers.